Welcome back. Short and sweet. We're here, shooter hunt with the War Room short because we got to talk some stuff that was going on in the Midwest with Cooper Trinkle, scouting director in Indiana. But what does he have the luxury of? The Great Grand Park and the fall championships that took place there. So, Coop, how are things going there? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Fall championships was really good. Saw a ton of talent, specifically at the 2025 class. We had a handful of high-end teams that came to the event. And then on top of that, from the 26, 27 class, we had a bunch of our future gamers there, a bunch of Midwest sophomore gamers there. So tons of talent. It was a lot of fun.
All over. What I love about the fall championships, it really kicks things off. It works in conjunction with the Puma Classic, which is a monster junior college event. I think there were over 200 college and professional scouts there this weekend. It was the number that I was told. And it makes sense because it's honestly a one-stop shop. You get the JUCO guys, the high school kids come in. You have the 25 class, 26, a little glimpse at the 27s, probably some 28s who are dancing around a little bit. I can think back to seeing some big Indiana arms in the past as freshmen in their fall. What made this one of my favorite events, and how could it not be with this story? But this was the Max Clark event. As a sophomore, Max Clark was playing for, I want to say it was Team Indiana, right? Team Indiana. He's there with some mega draft guys, all guys who have gone in the top 5 rounds. What's the kid that won the first round of the White Sox?
Colson Montgomery.
Montgomery. He's on the same team. There was no doubt that Max Clark was the best player in this event. Just as a sophomore, I think he had like 14 hits. Everything looked the part. Colson Montgomery's out there. There's prospects all over. But really, that cemented it for me. This year, especially going early in the fall, right? Guys are a little bit slow to get back. The velocity's just starting to climb. Maybe they took a few weeks off to rejuvenate themselves. So it's one of those things I never worry about velocity at this event. Having said that, there certainly appeared to be some pitchers who did not lose track of their throwing program and looked pretty good there. Who are some guys that were really highlighted? And right off the bat, a couple of draft names that you had on a sensational list you can see at prepbaseball.com. Josh Flores, Parker Rhodes. There's just power arms coming out of Indiana, jump shots and fastballs. That's what you guys do. So what did you have on those two guys that might have a chance to be springtime helium dudes?
No doubt. Flores was exceptional in his outing. He actually his start got pushed late into the night. I think he took the mound at 11:30 p.m.
You throw harder at night.
But man, it was electric. Anybody with tired eyes got woken real quickly. He was 90-94 on the fastball, but really for me, the separator was the breaking ball. He came out with an 82 to 84 mile an hour breaking ball, true top down, 13-3, 12-1 type. Was getting a bunch of whiffs with it, and it was playing off the fastball well. So that was big for me. He also showed a changeup that he's never really shown before.
Interesting.
It was playing with minimal vert and 18 plus inches of horizontal, and he could do what he wanted with it. He threw it to righties, threw it to lefties. So I think he punched out 10 in his 3 innings. So he was flat out dominant. And then Rhodes got the start the next day, came out hot in the first. He was 93, 94, grabbed a 5 in the first, was pitching off the fastball specifically. He started to show a bit of a sinker, which for me, I think is a progression for him because he's been a dead zone guy in the past. So adding that sinker in kind of allows him to do a couple different things. And then he's playing a tight little cutterish slider off of it. It did show some sweeper properties, but it was more cutterish than anything. Now, the thing that I take away with Rhodes is he's starting to show the sinker. So to me, I take away that there's at least an average changeup in there. He didn't show it, but I think that would be a big step for him going into next spring.
So talk to me a little bit more about the spin and compare those guys, because Flores has that innate spin. You're playing to what I love, spin wins, whereas Rhodes, the electric arm, fastball, has a chance to be hoppy. Sounds like he's gone in the lab and created a different profile for the pitch with that sinker. Is that what really separates those two right now, is the fact that Flores has a real weapon in that spin offering versus Rhodes is still trying to develop that cutter? Rhodes almost sounds a little bit similar to, he's a Mississippi State recruit, but similar to the kid that just got drafted out of there from Indiana, whose name is Nate Dome. Nate Dome.
Yeah, that's the separator for me. I mean, Flores can, and Flores has shown the ability to sweep it up to 88 in the past. It's just, it's wipeout spin, and it has been over the past 18 months. He gets a bunch of swing and misses, where Rhodes is not your typical swing and miss guy. He's more attacking the zone with firm stuff. and creating an uncomfortable look, getting more weak contact where Flores is going to get a bunch of swing and miss.
Okay, you had a couple more arms on this list. I'm sticking only to the 2025s for right now, just talking about draft stuff here. But Will Coleman, I was talking about guys that we see at this tournament at a young age. He was one of those. I think he's with the Canes. Was he
He's
still
with
with
the
the
Canes
Canes?
Midwest, yes.
Left-handed pitcher, also a really good athlete. I think he swung it fairly well there. What did Will Coleman bring? Because he's still uncommitted. I mean, honestly, this is probably one of the last outings before he goes on his slew of visits.
Yeah, absolutely. There were 15 or 20 schools there to see him. You know, Will is one of those guys that if I had to turn the ball over to a 25 in our state and I had to go win a game, I'd give it
Okay,
to Will Coleman.
interesting.
It's 4 pitches for strikes all the time. The fastball's starting to louden up. He was up to 90 this past weekend. Pitches more at 88. It's a real demon changeup. He can do what he wants with the changeup. He gets a bunch of swing and miss with it. The slider's starting to firm up as well. He was working it in the upper 70s, 2400, which has been a kind of a question mark for me in the past, his ability
Okay.
to spin. That's starting to firm up. But man, it's just he's one of those kids. He takes the mound, you know exactly what you're going to get.
It's fascinating you talk about he's the guy you want with the ball with the win because for me the velocity is the easiest thing to come. We can work on that throwing program, eating. It's just going to naturally progress for him. Is he the type of guy you think because of the arm speed and you were there in person? Do we think there's a chance he bumps up to 93, 94? He puts himself in position to be kind of that helium guy that always seemed to come out of Indiana throughout the spring.
I don't know if it happens this spring, Shooter, but I
Okay.
think it happens at some point before he's 21 years old. He's gradually just progressed. He was that 80 to 82 strike thrower as
I
a young
remember it.
kid,
Yep.
but turned into a mid 80s guy as a sophomore, junior, and it's just gradually climbed. So I don't see him getting up to the 93, 94 next spring.
Which is
But
fine.
man, by the time he's a junior in college, absolutely, I think he
M-
can.
Must be why they had 20 schools there. Somebody's to be getting a guy who's just a bulldog. What about Xavier Carrera? Because he's another guy, future gamer, big arm talent. What was he bumping?
So man, there were 30 plus scouts that came out to his start. His first inning was electric. He came
Mm.
out 92, 94. He grabbed a 6. He
Ooh,
showed a slurvy breaking ball, mid to upper 70s into the low 80s. It's more of a development pitch at this point. What you're getting with Javi is arm talent. I've seen him up to 97. It's a really good athlete. It's really quick arm. He ran into some trouble in his second inning, and ultimately that's his mo. It's the feel for command is still developing,
okay.
but the ceiling is
You're
immense.
buying stuff. Just sounds like you're buying stuff there, hoping that it all clicks, comes together, and we'll pay for some stuff we can't teach.
Absolutely. And he's the type of athlete that you can bet on that stuff to continue to stay there, and you can bet on the other areas to elevate just because of how athletic and how raw he is. He was a
Awesome.
shortstop coming up. He's really just started to
Okay.
focus on pitching in the last 2 years. So there's just a ton of upside in the entire operation.
Awesome. I want to shift over one underclassman arm because you hit me up multiple times. He's not an Indiana kid, was a future gamer the past 2 years. We got to see him this past year with Team Michigan, but Ethan Armstrong, who's uncommitted. First, I want to tell you what I loved about Ethan Armstrong is like, I love the makeup, love the athleticism, love the competitiveness that he has on the mound. Big frame. There was a fair amount of dead zone stuff that was at the future games. It sounds like maybe we just saw him after a tired summer because you were eyes wide, buzzing nonstop, saying, "I don't care if you're at the All-American game right now, Shooter. This guy's a dude. You need to retweet this." So, what did you have on Ethan Armstrong?
Absolutely. I mean, he was the arm that impacted me the most coming from this event. I saw
Okay.
him night one. He came out to close, was 90 to 92, spun a really good slider, and he
Hmm.
went top down with a curveball on top of it. Just flooded the zone. It was a really athletic operation, full circle arm action that he repeated really well. I really liked it on night one, and then he got a quick start on day 3 and came out with the exact same stuff. It was more 91, 93 that day, but same breaking ball, same spin. He showed a changeup. In the fastball, it did play with some dead zone properties, but it came from like a steeper vertical approach angle.
Okay.
Now, for me, I think he would be a perfect sinker baller candidate, right? From
Hmm.
that high release
Agreed.
height, he spins it well. I think a sinker would play with the slider changeup tunnel, and then he could still go four seam with the top down breaking ball with it. But
Look at you.
man, I
He's got
really
to pay
like
you a
him,
fee for that.
no doubt.
Um, So those are just some of the pitchers. And again, awesome article you put out with the list of guys who impacted you in this look, whether the prospecthood or the performance that they had there. Let's shift over to some of these 2025 draft position players. And the guy who had the biggest impact on your look, Homestay kid that you and I both know lots about. I loved what he was about at the NPI earlier in the summer, took some of the best overall at bats. I think there's a good chance he's the best 2025 outfielder in the class as well. But Brandon Logan, a Notre Dame dual sport football guy too,
Yeah.
recruit. What do you got on him?
Yeah, man, I was super impressed with the progression that Brandon showed offensively.
Mm-hmm.
He's always taking incredible at bats. I've watched him. He's crosstown rival with Brayton Thomas. I've watched him line up with Brayton the last 2 years and go again, take exceptional at bats, work deep counts, and that's kind of what he showed early in the weekend. And then he started to hit. I love the adjustments he's made. He was a wider stance, higher hand guy. He would dive at the ball. There was some steepness to the path. Now he's standing up. It's a little more athletic look. His hands are lower. He's getting more connected early. It's just he's allowing his athleticism to shine in the box. He's one of the best athletes in the country in the class, but you never saw that in the box until now. And I think it's just going to pay dividends for him next spring.
Was this a weekend? Like, did he have a Friday Night Lights? Was he playing football Friday?
Yeah. So he played Friday Night Lights, and then he came out Saturday afternoon, played one game, and then he played 3 games on Sunday. So he's getting it all this weekend.
You know what? Get the buzz going. He actually sounds like a perfect Super 60 candidate where you see what those off-season progressions are, what he shows up in February to show, and you start booking some trips around that guy who could be that buzzy name, especially as a dual sport guy for the Irish. You have another name here at number 5 who has been one of my sleeper favorites now for probably like 3 years. A former future gamer, IU commit, outfielder Cal Gates. What did Cal Gates bring? And I bet it was a ton of awesome at bats where he was on time.
Absolutely. Cal Gates was the best hitter in the park this weekend. He was on the barrel. He was on the barrel often. He's another one that's made some really good adjustments. So he's been a guy that we've seen in the past with a heavy forward move, but he's gotten away with it because his hands play so well. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit more hinged into the back leg now, a little more grounded in the stance, a little softer on the front foot during the stride, and it's putting him in a spot where he's getting away from that slappy type guy, and now he's starting to impact the baseball. He had a extra base hit on day 2, scudded a ball into left center field for a triple. He came out day 3 against a tougher left look and bashed a ball right back through the box. He just professional at bats is what we got from Cal Gates this weekend. Like I said,
that's awesome. There seems to be, like, just because the frame's not super big, there's a kid AJ Ewing a couple years back from Ohio. I think it was a 4th rounder, but kind of similar traits to the swing, the production. And even more so, the area guys who continue to become big fans, but kind of keep it to themselves. I think Cal Gates got a chance to be that guy. But moving on, JD Stein, who, you know what? JD Stein, he made a fan out of me. And you guys you and Phil there in Indiana have been talking him up for years, right? When you look at the profile, it's only about maybe 5'7". Would you give him 5'7", maybe 5'6"?
Yeah, he's
Dude, straight balls. And he is all over the place. He applies the pressure on the base paths. And the fact that he's on this list just means that he's continuing to produce. What was he doing?
Yeah, so JD was his typical self, just running around, playing with all kinds of energy, playing really great defense, does the ball across with plus arm strength. And then he's another guy like Cal. He just takes professional at bats. Every time he steps to the box, you're going to get a long at bat or you're going to get an early barrel. Makes great swing decisions. He actually impacts the ball much better than you'd expect from the frame. There's some twitch in there and there's some strength. But he was his typical self, man. Just exceptional motor. He's a leader on the baseball field. He's still uncommitted for now, but I think he's going to be committing to a big time program here in the next couple weeks. So he's a personal favorite of mine. I love the way he plays the game.
You're just glowing talking about JD Stein. There we go. But what about this? There's an Ohio kid committed to my alma mater, Tulane. Shout out the Green Wave, Roll Wave. And a guy who was playing with Brandon Logan this summer at NPI. And I loved what he was about. But Matthew Major, third baseman, committed to Tulane from the state of Ohio. What was he like at the fall championships?
Yeah, I remember you asking me about him in the summer, and this was actually the first look I got on him.
Okay.
Man, he is a physical presence in the box. I mean, it's 6'1", 205, built kind of like an outside linebacker. Took some really healthy hacks early, ended up hitting a homer on day 3, which is where I elevated him up this. There's a lot of raw power in there, man.
Mhm.
I don't know that he sticks at third base. It's just average Jackson's just a fringy runner. But what you're getting is a hitter. It's a run producer, and he the bat speed that he showed is really what impacted me the most.
Awesome. Then I want to wrap things up here with 2026 because he's on this list and he deserves some love because his team, Aiden Reynolds, third baseman, committed to IU. And I feel like there's so many good players in that program that he almost gets overlooked. Aiden Reynolds should not be overlooked. Get on the bandwagon now. Get on there early and often. Here we go. What did he do this weekend?
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better. He does. He gets overlooked just because of the arm talent in that 26 class. We got our
Hmm.
Beckett Jones, your Hudson DeVons, Aiden Smith, Gannon Grant. All those guys get a ton of love.
Yep.
And frankly, Aiden Reynolds is just quiet, confident, goes about his business. And every time you look up, he's on base with a hit. It's a real short, connected swing with bat speed. Him, Cal Gates, and JD Stein hit back to back to back. And I mean, that was almost the murderer's row of the Grand Park Fall Championships. I love Aiden. He's starting to run a lot more too, which he's showing progressions as an athlete. He's stronger than you think. So he's adding more parts to his game on top of the bat that just shows up every single day.
That's awesome. Well, Coop, this has been awesome. Really excited to see what the rest of the fall brings into the summer as we make our way towards the Super 60, where I'm sure we'll see a lot of these guys. But for Cooper Trinkle, Shooter Hunt, this has been a War Room Short. Until next time, we'll see you guys at the ballpark.